This is the second of my replies to Argus's The Problems of Feminism. His second argument against feminism is that feminists promote misleading statistics in the apparent aim of denigrating men and promoting their agenda. Right. First thing, once again, to say is that this is not an argument against feminism, it's rather an argument, once again, like his first argument against feminists. This is my reply. We realize when we talk to any ideology, like ideologically led group, so if we talk to a political party, if we talk to a religious group, if we talk to even a football fan, if we talk to a sports fan of a particular team, whenever there's partisanship, we come across the use of misleading statistics to support their own cause, right? So I mean, I don't see why that is such an issue for feminists rather than anyone else. I mean, I know anti-feminists use similar misleading statistics. If I'm trying to support a position, even if they are not deliberately misleading, I mean, lies, and damn statistics. I mean, you can't rely on statistics from a particular ideology. You have to look at all the statistics of the view, and of course you're going to use statistics to support yourself. I mean, Argus uses this exact same issue in his third and fourth arguments, where he uses statistics to support his own point of view. They could be termed misleading. If not misleading, they are all certainly biased. But just for a second, Argus says that the apparent aim of denigrating men is that why. I'm really glad that he used the word apparent, because it is not at all non-controversial that the denigration of men is part of the feminist agenda. That is a completely different issue. We need to talk about feminism as a movement, about the various levels of feminism, before we can talk about whether feminists do in fact require the denigration of men to forward their cause. But he hasn't really made an argument that that is the case, so I don't really feel the need at this point to defend that. So now here's an example of one of these statistics. The most notorious example of this is when polling women in colleges on whether or not they were raped. They asked them questions such as, did you ever have sex when you didn't want to? And then afterwards they translated their answers into a tick for rape. Now, this is shocking to me. I mean, in a modern world where you have certain notions of, you've changed in the zeitgeist about what is rape, what is acceptable behavior from human beings, advancement of different moral standards. If rape is not having sex when you didn't want to, then what else is it, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of dictionary definitions, and I've seen some myself, use the word force as necessary for rape to have taken place. But I mean, I think we've moved on from this. When a woman has sex against her will, she doesn't necessarily have to be made to have sex against her will, to be physically raped. Sorry, not physically raped, but to be forcefully raped. I mean, you can talk about coercion, you can talk about the grey area of what is rape and not rape, but I mean, I think it's a reasonable definition in current society to say that not having sex when you don't want to, or having sex when you don't want to, is rape. And I would like to see how he would prefer to define rape. I also would like a citation of where this study was published, because I couldn't find any on his website. Right. I'm going to take together arguments 3 and 4 from him together, because they kind of cover the same ground. The first argument is feminists support sexist laws, and the fourth argument is that feminists oppose laws that will help men. And he gives a few examples. Quotas and positive discrimination as an example of sexist laws. In an ideal world, where we start from the beginning with an egalitarian society, there would be no need for quotas, etc. But when women have only had less than a century to make up for all of the millennia of oppression, there have to be structures in place that would allow women to enter regions of society that no women were once allowed. Eventually, quotas should and will be phased out, but is quite rich for a dominant group to complain about the submissive group getting access to equal opportunities. I mean, why do we feel, as men, as white men in the Western world, which I also am, why do we feel threatened by women finally getting to the same levels that we are, right? Why? I don't understand this. I personally believe that I am the best in the roles that I want to do, right? As a white male or a white woman or a black male or a black woman or Hispanic or Asian, whatever it is, I think I'm better at, the job I do, and the jobs I'm about to go into. I believe I'm the best for that job. if I was to be replaced, or if I didn't get that job because a woman was given that job ahead of me solely because of her existence as a woman, I think it's quite simplistic to say that that woman is completely inferior to me, that she only got in there as a woman. I don't understand how this notion comes across. It's a fear. It's a fear of losing the power of patriarchy, and it's something that I can understand, but I cannot endorse. Right. He also mentions the criminalization of reckless sex, where only the man was culpable. I don't understand what he's coming from here, so I really need a bit more explanation before I can comment on that. He also mentions shared parenting, and this is the only area of Western society where women seem to have an advantage in family courts. I agree that this is an issue, and we should all do what we can to aid those fathers who wish to have access to their children. In terms of feminism, though, I cannot see how feminism against this, and I also need some more citations. He also mentions the Glenn Sachs show with Hugo Shyster. I can't find that show anywhere, so if he had a link to it, it'd be great. Protection for men for domestic violence, shelters for men. I think a point about this is that women are still struggling for the structures in place to escape domestic violence just as much as men are. If some women are against both men and women being safe from domestic violence, then I'd like to see a citation. So in other words, I can't imagine that feminists would be against men getting protection at the expense, for women getting protection at the expense of men. Right. I'd just like to add in something here that a friend of mine who's a student studying for a PhD in masculinity studies, and what they said. They say, for hundreds of years, patriarchy has dictated that women's place is in the home and that they should be primary caregivers to kids. This is why women end up getting custody more often than men. Patriarchy hurts both men and women, and this is a particularly good example of it damaging men. Masculinity needs to be redefined so that caring for children is seen as something that is both natural and respectable for men to do. If there was parity in child rearing, then parity in the courts might be more likely. Right, so I don't really have any arguments in this section other than the fact that we have a lot of structures in place that laws are required to alter. But furthermore, once again, it is a notion of feminists rather than feminism, although he is getting closer to a notion of feminism as an ideology trying to change the law and governmental and social structures that prop up patriarchy and reduce the ability of anyone who's not a white male to get to the highest levels of government, our law, our society, and so on. Right, I think that's enough for arguments 3 and 4. I will have one final video on 5, 6, and a summary. Thank you.